Well, I do think of my grandmother. For some reason, there was a family when I was a child by the name of Robinette, and went there a time or two. That's a Virginia name. And I remember that she had a lot of crocks and things out in the smokehouse, and it sort of reminded me of the older people and all. But I was started when I was buying relics from the smokehouse or the woodshed or the back room of the house. I tended from the beginning pretty much to buy anything that they would sell, but then I didn't realize until later that there was a great deal of interest in some of these crocks, especially if you knew the maker. And most people who are very proficient in this subject can look at most of these crocks and tell where they're made. Most all of these, 95%, I bought from the Southwest Virginia, Eastern Kentucky, Western North Carolina, and Tennessee, and a few in South Carolina and Georgia, I guess. So it tells a story about. It's interesting that you can people can see a crock and say that's a North Carolina crock, or that's a Kentucky crock. But in studying these, and there's one with some decoration on it, which was sort of unusual for this area, and it is reminiscent of the Indian decoration, and that's not unusual in the items that were made by the whites, the baskets and a lot of other things. Sometimes you can't tell whether it was made by the whites with Indian influence or whether it was made by the Indians with white influence. So there's a lot that can be learned from studying these items, and they were very, well, they were indispensable. You had your jam and to put in them, and your kraut and meat and just about almost everything. I visited an old man once that had a crock, a big tall one about the size of this one here, and he invited Dr. Acuff and me to eat dinner with him, and it was in the wintertime, and she went out, the lady did, Miss Blevins, on the back porch, and they had a whole big crock full of ham that they had put in there, and once it got cold, then the grease would solidify, would become a solid, so it would keep indefinitely. And they would reach in there and get out 3 or 4 pieces of ham, and it was as fresh and tasteful as ever. My mother always, and everybody that I knew in the country, when they fried the sausage, and they put it in jars and turned it upside down, I guess, to where the grease would seal it, and it would last for years, really.